Thank you for tuning into our podcast. We are coming to you from Holyoke, Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining me is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Camus. He offers both public and private tours, as well as presentations of the local canal systems, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks and streets in Holyoke, South Hadley, and Chicopee, Mass. Now you actually lead these tours and give these presentations yourself, is that correct?
That's right, and this is kind of off the beaten path towards the third level canal. It's not even on the canal, really, but it's a great mill to talk about.
And today he'll be talking about the American tissue mills. So tell us of the early history of the American tissue mills.
All right, now it didn't even start it under that name, so this history should be interesting. It started under the Japanese tissue mills, and they were mostly across the street. And along the way, we're going to talk about what production was like in the mills and some of their products, and then what happened to various locations they were at. But in general, they made a lot of very fine paper to wrap things around. If you're shipping glass, you might wrap with this paper. Okay, Benjamin Perkins started up the company, and he let his son, John Perkins, take over the business right away. And that's great because he would die the next year. And it stayed under the name Japanese tissue paper until 1920, when it was finally changed to American tissue mills, and it stayed under that. And so John Perkins ran the mill, and he ran it into the late 1920s when it was sold off, and it kept going and going. And this Benjamin Perkins had started up other businesses around town. In 1873, Perkins had started up like a fan company, a roller company for paper to be dimensioned. He also started up a rag tester, and he started up the Mullen paper tester for its strength. All right, and what they did at various locations was different. So you had different mills making different products, and we're going to talk about all the products at one point. But there are so many of them, right? And we're also going to talk about their many mills because there are so many of them, all right? And we're also going to talk about how they produce their many things.
And so tell us about the production at their mills.
Okay, production at their mills was vast, and many things were going on. But to give you a general idea of what production was like, most of the mills were the equivalent of about 3 floors high. And what they did here was that they would have different jobs on different places, right? And so I'll give you one breakdown. Now, I'll give you, their Perkins Mill was actually such that another company owned the first 2/3 of it, and they sold it to the Perkins in 1889, and they built onto it. And so it has mill sections 1, 2, 3, and they built on it 4 and 5. But to give you an example of what they were doing it mostly from the ground upwards, and that's kind of backwards in most places. So they had press machines on the ground floor, they had jobbing machines second floor, crepe paper finished on the third floor, and ornamental printed on the fourth floor. And then in another section, they might have different things, such as coloring the paper, mixing the paper up. They have one term I call the shook room. I have no idea what that means. They have a pattern room if they have to put a pattern into the crepe paper itself. And they have a carbon department because they make carbon paper. They have a novelty department. So they ran it off the model of departments instead of having production coming up or down, back and forth. It was mostly sectioned off on the floor. We're going to be doing this the whole time. They weren't a raw producer of paper, and so they could just take the paper and dimension it, color it, pattern it, and cut into it in irregular ways. And that was their job.
And so quickly before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, If you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org, and there he has both videos of the various stops along each tour and also past and present photos of the historical sites throughout as well. And if you're interested in setting up a private tour, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And they are perfect for fun, educational outdoor activities for the whole family, or for your group parties, especially those special occasions and get-togethers. And they are also good just for getting outdoors for a day. So getting back to our interview, what products were made at the American Tissue Mills?
Okay, they made a multitude of product. You can imagine all the uses. They made napkins, and just thinking about that, how many size napkins, how many colored napkins, and how many different folds you can put into napkins. So they made an incredible variety of napkins. You know, quarter fold napkins, crepe napkins, cocktail napkins, the kind you buy at your home. You can make white ones, black ones, purple ones, so forth. Gift wrapping paper, they made in all kinds of sizes, shapes, color, whether it had glitter on it or not. Tissue paper, they made a lot of varieties. Crepe papers they'd make for flower displays. They'd make it all different colors, all different thicknesses, whether it had print on it or not. Wax paper, they would make and make it in form of envelopes, for instance. They'd make it in form of delicatessen papers to wrap around sandwiches. Sometimes they'd have a product called pony rolls, which you don't even know what it's about. And then they made lining for shelving, right? They made a lot of plates and dinner sets, and so forth. Basically, throw away kind of plates and cups. And then they made all different colors. They made icicles, the icicle shapes for Christmas trees, and lots of other products. It was just incredible how much they could do. And of course, there's need for this kind of thing, so someone's got to do it.
And what has happened to the mill locations?
Okay, they're located in the Crescent Street location. This is the location where they had bought out another company and they had moved in here. And in this location, first was a Smith Williamson Sears paper company. That was 1885, but they ended up getting bought out in 1889, and the Perkins added on to it, the Perkins family. And along the way, the company would be called the Japanese Tissue Paper, the United States American Tissue Paper Company, the Perkins Paper Company, and then they would be located not only here on Crescent Street in Holyoke, but they would have a mill also in Willimanson, and at that mill they would make as many products as they made at the other one. They're both big mills. And so it was a great company. Their daily amount of paper made was 25 tons. 25 tons. And they had big plants all over the place, sales offices around the country, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. They had two big paper mills in South Hadley, which made a lot of the paper by the end. Right? So this was an enormous company making all these fine uses for paper.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours. And we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And again, you can tune into a large selection of our other podcasts and much more on his website. Again, it's holyokecanaltour.org. And you can email him directly for private tours or to inquire about anything else at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And be sure to keep an eye out for his upcoming 2024 season tours and more as they become available. Thank you for tuning in.